Hi everyone, I'm Tiffany Benson, one part of Team Benson, and today is probably going to be a little bit of a longer video because I have a tray full of summer veggies and fruits that need to get into the ground, and as you can see, I have a lot that's already in the ground. So let's get to harvesting. Alright guys, so in today's video, always a car in the city, always a car in the city. So in today's video, I'm going to go through, and it's going to be a two-part video because I'm getting a little bit to where it might seem a little bit bright outside, but dusk is going to fall soon. So I'm going to go through and walk and talk to you guys about the things that I'm going to pull and why, and then I'm going to put more compost in places that need to have higher soil levels or just need to be amended, and then tomorrow I'm going to go through and plant everything. Now, whenever I am going through and kind of deciding what's coming in and out of my garden, I kind of think of it as, if it's something like a herb, do I have enough of it grown to where I can dry that herb or preserve that herb and it lasts for the rest of the year until I can grow it again? Or if it's something that I need to leave in the ground. Having a small space garden, if something is flowering like an herb, then I automatically get ready to pull it up. One, I don't want things that are flowering because I don't want to have seeds thrown everywhere in my garden. It's a very small space, so one little burst of seeds can mean like dill seeds and dill plants all over the place. And two, I need that space. You know, once things start to flower, different flavors start to be affected on the way that the plant tastes, because now it's going into just reproduction mode instead of just yummy greatness mode. So when the caterpillars aren't even trying to eat it, I'm not trying to eat it either. So I want to put in something else that can start growing so that it can provide me food for the next cycle of this garden. Now, not everything I'm going to take out. Don't think I'm going to go through and just rip out all the plants. But let's walk through and I can tell you which ones are getting the... Okay, so look at these guys. I found these in my garage from, I think it was 4th of July. So I decided to add them there because, you know, they're cute. And I like little trinkets in my garden. So the first two plants I'm taking out are these two lettuces. They are now starting to reach for the sky and bolt. This one is super, super tall. So I realized that they don't taste as tasty as these lettuces. So I'm going to take out these two. I'm going to cut up all the leaves and use it for salads for the rest of this week. And then I'm going to plant some kale in there that I have going. Also, I'm going to take out this pak choi. It's a purple pak choi. It no longer tastes like the wonderful purple pak choi because it has now flowered. I've let the bees kind of get to it, but it's starting to look like it's going to throw seeds, and I don't want seeds all in this bed. Everything else, the Swiss chard, this is the summer Swiss chard, so it is in it to win it and here to stay. And the spinach is still young, so it's not bolting and it's not ready to go, so we're going to keep the spinach in here. Okay, for the really big bed on the patio, which is this one, I am going to leave the celery, although I'm going to trim it up a bit and take off some of the celery leaves and put them in the freezer. The greens I'm leaving, this one is our new kale plant. I'm going to start trimming some of those leaves, and then I'm going to trim this collard as well to start adding more to the ones I have in the freezer. And then trim a couple of the turnip leaves, but leave the turnips, and the beans are going to be summer crops, so those are going to be left in there. Well, they're spring/summer crops. And then if you guys can see, look, I finally planted out the stackable. I have one stack that's still there. I'm going to make that a centerpiece for my table. But we have some basil that I've been growing inside. That's now out here. And we have a couple of different basils just because I want a lot of basil this summer because we ran out. So the garlic is still staying, but all of the herbs and this section, guys, are going. The oregano is now massive, and that is ready to be dried so that we have oregano inside, which we have none. We did not survive all winter without oregano. And then also this parsley is ready to go. It's pretty grown out and needs to be dried. And as you can see, the cilantro is starting to flower. Aren't those pretty? It's beautiful, but it's starting to affect the flavor of my cilantro. And then this is the only cauliflower that didn't produce a cauliflower. I cannot say that. But it's starting to attract some bugs, so we're going to go ahead and take this one out because in this spot is going a squash. And then the sage is staying in here for some fresh sage, if I can talk today, guys. The onions are obviously still going, and the artichoke needs to get to the size of Texas before we can take that out. So that's staying. And then the beets, we're just waiting for them to bulb up. So I know a lot of people are going to ask me, why am I taking up all of my big herb plants? And here's the thing. I grow herbs mainly because I need them to be dried. So I need enough to be able to dry to last us through the year, or to freeze them or preserve them. There are some herbs that I love fresh, so I do have thyme growing for as long as possible in my garden, and I have sage growing for as long as possible, and basil growing for as long as possible. But when it's time to switch out those herbs, we've had enough of eating fresh herbs of certain types of flavors, so we want to change up the flavors, but I also want to get them preserved so that then I have them later on. So before they start bolting, like the oregano, who's huge and is going to really fill up my little jar of oregano that's now empty, I don't want it to affect the flavor by it bolting and flowering. So I'm going to go ahead, pull it, and get it all preserved up so that then it's ready for when we want to make some really good spaghettis with all that fresh basil that's going to happen. Okay, so this whole section is staying. The cabbage, I'm still giving a little bit more time. We are eating the outer ends of the cabbage along with the one that got some caterpillar damage. We're eating the outer lens to make like some wraps and different things. This shishito, I think I'm going to kind of keep going, try to take off all the fruit and see if it'll grow back its leaves. It's one that really got it in the hail damage, and it doesn't want to know if it wants to fruit or grow leaves. So it's just kind of stopped really doing both. This shishito, though, is coming in a little bit nicer, and as you can see, it is starting to grow like a regular size shishito versus this one that's growing like these like little weird knobs. So I'm going to take all these off and see if it'll fix it. The collards I'm leaving there, and we're going to just trim those up. And this is why I'm not upset about taking out the parsley out of the big bed, because I have parsley right here that we can use for fresh eating. And the tomato, obviously, that's staying. I mean, guys, look at this. Look at all of these little baby tomatoes that I am just going to eat all up as soon as they are red. Look, there's like a cluster of them right here. This is going to give me so many tomatoes. It's a Better Boy tomato. I've never had one, but I can't wait to try it. So next we have I want to say that one's a Cherokee purple tomato plant. That one's staying because it's going to be for our spring and early summer crops. And we have beets that hopefully bulb up. I don't think oh wait, no, I think it's going to be fine. I planted a couple of them in there just to see what would happen. It's kind of like an experiment. So we're going to see if those bulb up. They're starting to look like they're starting to develop a root. And then this is the lettuce. This is going to stay for a little bit longer because it's not bolting. And look, the beans. They're starting to make their way to the top, guys. These are our spring and summer crops. So they're starting to make their way. And our rosemary, it is going to do just fine throughout the summer, so we're going to leave that. It's looking like it's getting like a little white stuff on it, so I don't know really what that is. I will have to look that up. And then this is a fresh thyme that we are keeping. This is one that I started a lot later than the other times because I wanted this one to be able to be used for fresh thyme when we had thyme that I'm gonna be using for drying. But all of the beans are starting to pop up now and look really big. As you can see, they're already starting to get like little potential flowers on them. And if you guys haven't seen my video on my patio arch trellis, it survived 20-mile-an-hour winds, which I'm really surprised by. But it did, so that means that it's sturdy and it is safe for monsoon season. So we have some beans planted in there. We have 2 different types in there, and then 2 different types in there, bush beans and pole beans, that we are going to be growing in our patio arch trellis. So one thing I'm going to really try and grow a lot of this year is squash. I have not been successful with squash, but these are some baby squash plants, and then I have some that are growing inside too as well. This sage, I think I'm going to try moving it to a different location, but it's so healthy and nice and pretty that I may let it stay, but I just don't want it to get crowded with the squash plants. I think one of the reasons why I haven't been successful with squash is because I haven't given it enough room. So we're gonna see. And then this trellis is gonna get some cucumbers as soon as they get some more soil in it. But it is time for this lovely guy to come and be baked with 3 different types of cheeses and some broccoli. So this one is coming out, guys. Now this bed, it has gotten so huge once again. As you guys can see, pruning your plants does nothing but help them grow healthier, because this bed once again looks amazing and healthy. So coming out of this bed is going to be all the cilantro, because it's now flowered. So I'm taking this cilantro and that cilantro out. It's crazy to think that there's all these sprouts of the cilantro, but this is only 2 cilantro plants, guys, and they have just grown crazy and found their own space of where they wanted to go. But I'm taking out this cabbage. It's going to be coming inside with us. This one's staying, and this one's staying. Taking all of the broccoli heads, but I'm going to leave the broccoli for another week or 2 while the okra gets a little bit bigger inside, and see if maybe it'll give me a few more broccoli heads. I'm probably going to plant the okras in between where these are going. I'm going to add some soil and plant the okras, so then that way the okra will have a chance to kind of grow. But I'm going to take out these broccolis once the okra gets about halfway the size of where I want it to be, and then also to see if I can get a couple more rounds of broccoli out of here. So over here, my little thyme plant that started off so small is now pretty big and healthy. This is going to be the thyme plant that I'm going to be pulling so that I can dry it. So this whole little thing is getting pulled, and that whole thing will be dried, and then I'll use the other thyme and all the other places for fresh eating. So the last thing that's coming up is my dill plant. It's so majestic, guys, and beautiful. Like, I've never seen flowers on a dill plant because I haven't grown dill really in my backyard. But this is absolutely gorgeous. And if I didn't need to put some cucumbers in this space so that I can one day make pickles, I would totally leave it. But instead, it's got to go. So that is what's coming out. As you guys can see, it's a lot. It's a pretty big deal of my little garden. But I have a tray here full of things that needs to go in. And then after that tray is planted, I have more things that need to go in that tray and back underneath the grow lights. So that's kind of how I keep my garden starting to grow with things and always having something producing that we can eat in it. Because in a small space, guys, you don't have the option of just letting things grow out, because you might run out of space for there to be food that you can have for fresh eating. And that's one of the things you want to make sure that you have in your garden, is always something to eat, because when you have times that are crazy and insane, you want to make sure you have food, and nothing's make sure you have food by making sure you have things planted in different cycles so that something is always producing something. So I'm gonna get to work, and it's gonna seem like forever for me before I get to talk to you guys again, but it's gonna be as quickly as this for you guys. Alright guys, so it's the next day. I did a little bit of pulling and putting down some compost that I did film yesterday once I got done filming myself, and I just wanted to look like a dirty hot mess. So now I'm gonna finish putting in all of the plants, and then I will give you guys a grand finale tour. Okay guys, so in the first bed I pulled out the 2 lettuces that are starting to bolt. The spinach is still fine. The Swiss chard is going to last all throughout the summer. These lettuces are going to last a little bit longer, and it'll give me time to get the new lettuce that I have growing kind of at a bigger size. And then I pulled out the pak choi too as well. Over here I pulled the cauliflower because it was done. I also removed the entire root ball for the sage plant because I transferred the sage plant to a pot. I'm not drying that one. That one I'm transferring. And then I picked which scallop squash I liked because I have a lot of squash that sprouted, so I want to put different kinds in here. So I'm keeping that one because that was the biggest one. I took the other 2 just small ones. I'm going to add another squash there and another squash there. That way there's going to be 3 squash here, and then there's going to be some cucumbers over there. So one of the things that I do when I am doing a garden cleanup is I know I'm going to be pulling a lot of vegetables, and I want to make sure that those vegetables don't have insects and stuff on them when I get into the house. So what I do is I soak them in water and a little bit of apple cider vinegar. The apple cider vinegar will just kill anything that's on them and just kind of clean them up. And then when they get nice and clean, then I just take them and set them off to the side and let them dry. So I can let them soak while I do one bed, and then take all the stuff out of there, get that cleaned, clean the water, and then put everything from the new bed that I'm working on in here and let that soak. That way I have no bugs inside. Okay, in here guys, I pulled the cabbage. These 2 cabbages are still growing. I did trim all the bottom leaves on them, and then I pulled all the broccoli heads that I could get off of these broccoli plants. I'm going to give these broccoli plants one more round. So what I did is I literally took almost all of the bottom leaves off, just left them enough because now they're going to instantly sprout more broccoli flowers. And let's get this bed ready. Oh, and then over here I did pull up the the thyme plant because that thyme is going to be dried. Stop real quick to show you. I just took up the first layer of wood chips. My worms are doing really good with keeping the soil really loose. So the last thing I want to do is get in there and start digging a bunch and then stabbing them. So I just take up the top layer of wood chips because yes, here in Arizona we get wood chips. Please don't leave comments about how it's leaching nitrogen down on my soil. I don't want a $3,000 water bill. So we use wood chips. And then I'm going to add some worm casting to the top. And then I'm going to add some of the compost to the top. And then I'm going to plant the newbies. Guys, so that was a lot of work, but look at this harvest. I am going to be drying and preserving and making butters and making dinner with that little guy and those little guys all Sunday. So this is nice. Look at all these herbs. My little tins of dried herbs are going to be absolutely full. I'm excited. All right, so now I feel like this is kind of like Pimp My Garden, you know, like those old MTV shows. I'm really excited about all the herbs that I'm getting ready to dry. It's going to be a long Sunday, and I'm going to make that cauliflower tonight too, so that's going to be pretty yummy with the broccoli. But let's take a look and see what the garden looks like. Alright guys, so that is it. That is the replant for my spring garden. One of the things that I love about my garden now is I originally started my garden when my best friend had cancer, and I just wanted to grow something, even if it was something small, because she liked growing things and I wanted it to be something that we could do together, so that when she came over to my house it was a little bit of happiness that she could have, because she lived in an apartment. And when she passed away, I kind of felt a little bit lost with my garden. I didn't really know kind of where I wanted to go with it, and being able to provide food for my family then became a big source of my joy with my garden. And now with all of the new subscribers and people telling me that, you know, thank you for what you're doing, and you know, you're showing me a lot for my space, and I live here in Arizona and I'm growing in the desert now, that gave me even more of a purpose. It really made me feel like not only is my garden something that's special to me because it's providing food for me and my family, but it's also a classroom for a lot of other people. And there's something really to that, guys. It's something really to sharing knowledge and being able to help people get to a certain place in their life where they want to be. So I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate everybody that shows up pretty much almost on a daily basis now to my channel to see what I have going on. I just really love the support. So make sure you guys are growing a garden, because even a small space can provide you with tons of food.